Delighted to have you with us today. My name is Henrik Palmgren, and if you have been following our website for the last year or more, you know that we put focus on many of the Earth changes and space anomalies that have been reported by the media, the alternative press, and individuals on their own blogs, websites, and YouTube channels. Obviously, there's so much that it's practically impossible to keep up with it all, but some of the major stories have been about magnetic north now being on the move. Strange spirals have been appearing over Norway, Australia, Mongolia, New Zealand, and Russia. There have been birds falling out of the sky around the world, heralding some kind of apocalypse. A mirage city mysteriously appeared in China in June. A portal-like light burst bubble or whatever it was seen over Hawaii. And the sun rose 2 days early for our friends up in Greenland. There have been strange plasma light phenomena in Fort Worth, Texas, and many other places as well. Low rumbles and hums are reported. There are also people saying that the sunrise and sunset has shifted, that it's setting more towards the north, and that the quality of the light is different, and some people even claim that the stars are displaced and the moon is consequently also behaving strangely. And then we have the usual strangeness continuing as well. Increased amounts of earthquakes, strange weather patterns, sinkholes have opened up in different places around the globe, and strange bright lights are being reported around the world. And while some of these strange phenomena might be a consequence of technology or experimentation, I don't think it explains everything. And the suggestion is, of course, that something else is going on, and the question is what? Maybe we're making a mistake when we're connecting all of these different phenomena, but they are nonetheless all contributing to the sense of strangeness, that something is going on. And who knows, maybe the strangeness just has begun. John Lash is back with us on the program today to talk about Sophia's correction and what might be the reason then for many of these anomalies. John Lash is a self-educated freelance scholar who combines studies and experimental mysticism to teach directive mythology, that is, the application of myth to life, rather than its mere interpretation. He is a leading exponent of the power of myth to direct individual experience and drive historical events over the long term. He's an expert on sidereal mythology, naked eye astronomy, precession, and the world ages. He also teaches the critique of belief systems. And on metahistory.org, his website, he presents a radical revision of Gnosticism with original commentaries on the Nag Hammadi codices. He also presents the only complete restoration by any scholar of the Sophianic myth of the pagan mysteries, the sacred story of Gaia Sophia, recounting the origin of the Earth and the human species from the galactic core. Stay with us for the next 2 hours for a very intriguing discussion. Welcome back to Red Eyes Radio, John Lash. It is great to have you back with us again. It's over a year ago since we talked with you last, and so many things have unfolded. Obviously, so many things have happened, and we have a lineup of interesting things we're going to talk with you about here. But first of all, then, John, welcome back. How are you today?
I'm very fine, Henrik. Thank you so much for having me on again. It's a pleasure and a privilege.
Absolutely. It's really good to talk to you. And I wanted to have you back because primarily I got an email from you a few days ago, maybe a week ago now, in terms of something that you termed Sophia's correction. You included a video in the email, and one who took the time to watch it could obviously see some pretty interesting things in regards to, well, basically spanning from the Western media covering this aspect of the shifting of the magnetic north all the way over to the Inuits of the northern parts around the Arctic regions, talking about primarily the setting and the rising sun, the shifts and the changes that has happened in that. And this is a big topic, obviously. This is a very interesting one. We, if we go back a little bit more into the news record, so to speak, John, we could bring up this news item from Greenland as well. People might recall stories coming out from Greenland that the sun was actually rising 2 days early. And a lot of these different little anomalies connected with the sun, connected with the magnetic field, seems to be kind of piling up, if you will, John. What is your take on this? Tell us a little bit about this, Sophia's correction.
Well, Sophia's correction is a term taken from the Gnostic writings of Nag Hammadi. It's found in those texts. It's a theme or clue, you might say, that was left to us by the Telestai, who were the ancient seers who directed the mystery schools and the ancient schools of initiation in Europe and the pagan world. And it's a very intriguing clue, Sophia's connection, for a number of reasons. First of all, because the myth of Sophia, the story of the goddess Sophia, that was the centerpiece and guiding vision of the mysteries, is really the only true planetary myth that we have that explains the origin of the Earth and the origin of humanity, and also explains as well the presence of predatory extraterrestrial beings in our world. It explains a great many things. Now, I recovered and restored this myth from my study of the Gnostic materials. I want to point out, going in, that this myth is not my creation. It's not the invention of John Lash, not by a long shot. But I am the only scholar who has completely restored this myth, which I consider to be the directing myth for the human species. And the Gnostics themselves and the ancient seers who developed it also considered it as such. Now, one of the interesting things about this myth, and of course, understand that I mean myth in this sense as a story of power and magic, and a true story presented in a poetic or metaphorical form. I mean myth in the sense of a deeper truth, not in the sense of a fiction or fabrication. I think everyone listening would understand that. Beautiful thing about this myth, Henrik, is that it's an open-ended myth. Now, when you take other myths from any culture, like the myth of Ragnarok, of the Götterdämmerung, or the end of the world myths from Teutonic or Scandinavian mythology, or when you take the biblical myth of creation and the coming of the Messiah and the end of the world, all the myths that you can examine that have come down to us have a prescripted end. But this story about the divine Sophia, who is the earth goddess and is in fact the embodied in the earth, doesn't have an end. It's an open-ended experiment. The myth is an invitation to become involved in a cosmic and supernatural dimension of life and to be conscious agents and participants in the future of the earth itself. This is a tremendous, tremendous concept. And this is where Sophia's correction comes in. Sophia's correction, the word correction, is found in the Nag Hammadi text as the word diorthosis, D-I-O-R-T-H-O-S-I-S, which scholars translate as correction. But it can also be translated as dual solution or two-form solution. It means the solution or the correction to a problem. And so what is the problem that is described in this Sophianic myth that is due to be corrected? Well, the problem is that the goddess Sophia, as the myth tells us, conceived that there could be a divine experiment with humanity, with our species. And she had a particular idea of how this experiment would go. And the way that we are living now, the place that we find ourselves on Earth currently, is a place in which this divine experiment has gone badly wrong. In other words, I think that even without extensive argument, any person with a kind of common sense and also a feeling of compassion for other human beings would understand that something is very wrong in the way we're living on this planet. Something is very wrong about where civilization has taken us. Something very wrong about the way we do business and the way we treat each other, and the tremendous degree of secrecy and manipulation that permeates our world. Yeah. Something is telling us that something is really, really wrong here. And one of the beautiful aspects of the Sophianic myth is that it addresses this situation. And Sophia's correction is actually the solution to this situation. But I would add, and I'm very happy that you've chosen that as the theme and title for this interview, because we're going to weave in and out of this theme. This is our master theme. This is our guiding theme. And I just want to say at the outset that the beautiful thing about the correction that humanity can now achieve is that it is a cooperative correction made with the Earth Goddess. It's not something that we as human beings just do on our own. We finally straighten out, figure out what's wrong, figure out where all the secrecy and deception are coming from, and clear things up. Certainly, that's possible. But the beautiful part of the Sophianic myth is it offers us the opportunity to clean up our act and bring humanity back into the true path of our divine experiment with the Earth Goddess in actual interactivity and communication with her. And I call that interactivity with Gaia Sophia, planetary tantra. It's just a name that I put on the practice of that interactivity and communication. And we stand now, as a species, on the threshold of planetary tantra.
How so? Why now? What are the properties of this, John?
There are two particular reasons why planetary tantra would be happening now and would be possible now. Three particular factors, actually. One of them is that we are coming to the end of a great cosmic cycle, which is the cycle of the precession of the zodiac. I'm sure you know what that is, and many of your speakers and interview people have talked about it.
That's right.
According to my calculation, which is based on the Dendera zodiac in correlation with other Maya, Aztec, and Hindu chronologies, the great cosmic clock of the zodiac, the great precessional cycle, ends in 2216. I choose that date because that's the date when the winter solstice aligns with the point toward the galactic center. The location of the winter solstice is currently about 2 or 2.5, 2 to 3 degrees offline from the galactic center. When the winter solstice aligns exactly with the galactic center, that is the 0 hour on the cosmic clock as it was calculated in ancient times. And so it becomes possible in the last 200 years of this vast cycle of 26,000 years to make a tremendous leap and amplification in human experience and to actually recapitulate our past, see the errors of the past, jump beyond those errors and move into a period of rapid amplification and acceleration of human consciousness in these last 200 years, which are called technically Kali Yuga.
So John, this is, sorry to interrupt, but I want to ask you here.
Sure.
That means that this is connected then, in other words, to something physical, a cosmic alignment being the matter of our solar system, if you will, lining up with the center of the galaxy, correct?
This opportunity for planetary tantra today, right now, and this opportunity for interactive magic with the planetary goddess is deeply physical. It is deeply physical in many ways. We're going to get into that through this conversation. I hope to be able to elucidate it for you. These anomalies that we're seeing are indications of the physical breakthrough into interactivity with Sophia. And so it's happening, first of all, I said there were three factors. One of them is that it's happening within a cosmic time frame. And the cosmic time frame doesn't guarantee that anything is going to happen. But in the last age, in the last years of Kali Yuga, an ancient teaching says that in the last centuries of Kali Yuga, when we are living now, that is the time when humanity as a whole reaches its worst state of degeneration, absurdity, stupidity, violence, and oblivion.
And we sure can see it, John,
and
when we look around.
Sure are there. At the same time, because there's a double message about Kali Yuga. The other thing that the Mahanirvana Tantra says is that even though the great mass of humanity descends into degeneration, this is the time for the highest opportunity for spiritual development in the shortest period of time. And so this amplification, this opportunity for very rapid, fast track spiritual development and fast track acquisition of shamanic and magical powers by our species uniquely occurs in this timing. That's one reason as far as the cosmic time frame is concerned. So now let me see if I can give you very briefly what the other two reasons are. The other two reasons why it's happening now is, first of all, that humanity is organized in such a way psychically, the human being is organized in such a way psychically that we have had to go to the worst case scenario for our species before we could break into the secret of our divine experiment. This is not going to end in a nightmare. This is not going to end in a doomsday scenario. But we had to go to the point where it would almost be so, where that threat would actually be looming on the horizon in order to be in enough shock to be woken up. You know, Kali, who rules over this period of time, which is exceptional degeneration and exceptional advance, is the shock goddess. She awakens us by shock. And so we have to be shocked by the prospect of a nightmare of our own making in order to wake up and seize the true potential for this divine experiment. So that's another factor that's leading us to this moment. And then there's the third factor. And the third factor is Gaia herself. The living, animating, sublime, indwelling consciousness of this planet is like the consciousness of an animal. She's an animal. Think of Gaia as an animal. You know, Gaia is a name taken from science, from the Gaia hypothesis of Lynn Margulis and James Lovelock. And I've talked a lot about the Gaia hypothesis in my book, Not in His Image, because it's very compatible with the Gnostic vision of Sophia. Therefore, I coined this joint term, Gaia Sophia, to bring those two things together. Now, I want to point out that it would be a very good practice from here on, as well as thinking of the planet as a superorganism, which is what Lynn Margulis calls it, as well as realizing that the planet is alive, it's in a living being, it's not a dead lump of matter. Think of it as an animal. And I call that animal Pam. You can call her Pam if you want to. P-A-M, Planetary Animal Mother.
Right.
So call her Pam.
Pamela, Pam for short, yeah?
Yeah, Pam for short, right? Yeah, call her Pam. Pam is waking up. Now, Pam is like a big, big lion. She's a very ferocious animal, very protective of her progeny. And this is the moment when Gaia awakens. That's why I called my framework for planetary tantra the terma of Gaia awakening. This is the moment when she awakens. And when she awakens to the plight of humanity, and we, humanity, awaken to our plight, and then to her presence as a living divine animal, then it's a whole new game. That is the shift. And the shift is now. I'm not talking, Henrik, about things that are going to happen here. In this whole interview, I'm not talking about things that are going to happen. I do not predict. I'm talking about what is happening. This is happening now. She is awakening, and she is making her awakened presence available to every single human being who can bring themselves to it.